Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Nicole and today I have a multimedia project for you. The only multimedia part to this will be the white acrylic that I'm using for the daisies. Other than that, it's all watercolor, folks. So we're going to start off here with the wet on wet background. I like to tape my paper to the board. I'm using Arches 140-pound paper. And you're going to wet your paper really good, and then I'm going to be mixing in some very warm colors. I have some quinacridone gold and raw sienna. I'm also going to be mixing in, of course, my burnt sienna. And for the green, this is sap green. And I'm giving it a good mix to kind of blend some of the warm colors together there with the green. So I do want to create a dark foreground. It has to be somewhat dark in order for those white daisies to pop against that. Folks, you could use any brush when you're putting in those big blocks of colors. I had used a flat 3/4 brush for that. Now I changed to a script liner brush just to pull some foliage up into the sky area. I do have a bit of pooling of water. That's what I'm doing there, is picking that up with a piece of paper towel. Now to add some fun to it, we are going to add a little bit of salt. The salt crystals will form these really cool patterns once it dries. So this is going to give it texture, give it some extra interest. I am going to wipe up the moisture around the edges so that I don't get any blooms when it does dry. A little bit more salt for good measure. Now you can see the salt starting to take effect. So here's a tip for you guys. If you want a certain look and you're happy with what the salt has done so far, you could take a fan brush like I did and lightly scrape it off. You're going to let that dry a little bit just to get rid of some of that moisture. And then what I'm doing is I'm just taking water. This is a script liner brush that is damp with water, and I'm making some impressions, kind of what I like to call controlled blooms, and they will leave some marks on the paper, some light areas. Now we're going to let that whole thing dry. So my darkest green is a shadow green. So kind of looking at where I would like to place my daisies and adding the foliage. I'm also going to include the reference photo so that you can see where my inspiration came from for this painting. Where I plan on putting the daisies, I'm going to start off by doing the centers, so I could kind of plan where I'm going to add my big white petals. So I got the centers of my flowers, I got some little blooms. For some of these main stems, I am going over them to get them a little darker. Okay, now for the fun part. I'm using a flat brush with some acrylic paint. You could just get this at any local craft store. This is just like folk art acrylic paint, just super cheap. I think it was like $4 for a bottle. Here's a tip for you. If you are painting over an area that might be a little bit wet, you could lean your hand on your other hand in order to steady it. So I had tried this, folks, with just some gouache, but it's still, even though if you use a gouache that's opaque, you just don't get that same sort of look that acrylics bring to the table. So that is why I used acrylics, and thus have to call this a multimedia painting, because you do get some really nice stark whites, and against all these colors that I have going on, those daisies really pop. You can definitely use gouache if you do not have acrylics. It still turned out nice. You just might have to go over the petals a few times to get them to be very opaque. So this is basically a 2-layer painting, very simple. You have your background layer, your stems and your flowers for the second layer. So I'm varying the sizes of the petals. Notice the ones that are closer to us are larger and longer, and the ones that are in the back of the flower will of course be shorter. Now, some of the flowers in the reference photo had some little yellow daisies, so I've kind of mixed some of my cadmium yellow light with the acrylic. So see guys, even though I'm using acrylic paint, I am going over these petals a few times to get them to be more opaque. This is starting to look really good. This would be such a beautiful card to give to somebody. Just a very happy meadow scene. Now you could really tell the difference with that last one that I'm going to go over now, how much it makes a difference to give it a second coat. It's like it's jumping off the page now. Deepening up the centers a little bit. And that is it, folks. Take off the tape to reveal that nice white border, and you are done. You guys just created a masterpiece. Congratulations. Hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial, and I'll see you again later. Thanks for watching.